My patience had run its course. I made a beeline for home right after work. When I arrived, my mother-in-law was standing at the front door, grinning from ear to ear. "What's the matter, Mom? Did you pay a visit to your boss today? Did you finally grasp the consequences of crossing me?" "Oh, I understand all right." I retorted that you are an incredibly irritable and unpleasant woman. "How dare you speak to your mother-in-law in such a manner? You're clueless. I won't let this slide. Leave my son and get a divorce this instant." "Fine, I will get a divorce," I declared and headed straight to the town hall. "My name is Natalie, a 30-year-old office worker. Just 3 months ago, I tied the knot with Henry. We had been colleagues for a long time, just colleagues, as I struggled to settle into my job and had no romantic interest in him. However, everything changed when he moved to a different department and our interactions at work dwindled. About a year ago, we found ourselves on the same team for a cross-departmental project. It had been ages since we last caught up, and I noticed a change in him. He seemed more attractive and was excelling at his job. I found myself drawn to this new side of him. The project turned out to be a success, and we began to spend more time together, eventually growing closer over drinks and outings. 6 months into our relationship, he popped the question, and we swiftly transitioned into married life. Given the joy we found in each other's company during our dating period, I was optimistic about our journey ahead as a married couple. However, marital bliss quickly turned into turbulence, courtesy of my mother-in-law. Unexpectedly, she began visiting our home nearly every day post-marriage, a behavior she hadn't exhibited during our dating days. Granted, my in-laws' residence is situated quite close to ours, but her incessant daily visits began to grate on my nerves. Moreover, it was clear that her visits were not intended for her son, my husband, or rather to torment me. Given that my husband's work demands exceeded mine, he usually arrived home around 3 hours after I did, leaving me to handle the dinner preparations alone. Without fail, my mother-in-law would show up during this time. "Natalie, I've grown weary of waiting. Let me in. What's on the menu tonight? Show me what you bought." And just like that, she'd start examining my grocery bags, placing the ingredients I'd purchased onto the kitchen counter. "What's for dinner today?" She'd probe. "I was thinking of making risotto, Henry's favorite." I'd respond, "Risotto? You expect him to be satisfied with a single-dish meal? What about grilled vegetables or roasted salmon or a salad? You need to prepare an assortment of side dishes," she'd exclaim. "I do cook multiple dishes when time permits, but work was particularly hectic today." I tried to explain, but she'd cut me off, dismissing my explanation. "I don't need your excuses. To begin with, it's inappropriate for you to be working after getting married. Do you genuinely hold such modern views? What? Are you attempting to defy me? You really are too clever for your own good. I'm here to straighten you out." My mother-in-law would launch into a tirade, her responses escalating tenfold for every attempt I made to stand up for myself. After showering me with a barrage of unreasonable and harsh criticisms, she would make her exit, conveniently just before my husband, Henry, arrived home. "Henry will be home soon. I'll see you tomorrow." With those parting words and a smirk on her face, she would leave. It was absurd. Why should I have to come home from a taxing day at work only to face a cruel mother-in-law? Yet, true to her word, she returned the following day and the day after that. I grew fearful that if I didn't take action, her daily visits would indeed become a permanent fixture. In an attempt to avoid her, I decided to work late and coordinate my arrival home with Henry's. Unfortunately, my department had just wrapped up a hectic period and there was scarcely any work remaining. My boss emphasized the importance of punctuality and expressly forbade overtime. Left with no other options, I started killing time in a coffee shop. However, it didn't take long for me to realize that the cost of coffee every day would quickly accumulate. Furthermore, it was neither financially wise nor conducive to a happy marriage to spend extra money and arrive home late, only then to have to rush through dinner preparations. Besides, I questioned why I should be the one forced to steer clear of my own home. One day, I decided enough was enough. I would return home at my usual time, ready to make my stance clear to her. As anticipated, my mother-in-law was waiting for me. "I see you finally surrendered. You deliberately stayed out late just to avoid me, didn't you? Well, it won't work. I will be here, day in and day out. Just accept it and take what's coming to you." She openly asserts herself as someone who practices domestic violence, which is utterly insane. Following her routine, she peered into my shopping bag and started her litany of complaints, swiftly shifting her focus to berating me directly. How many times do I have to tell you that it's improper for a wife to remain employed? This is probably why you can't conceive. Is this any of your concern? I questioned. What do you mean? The stress from your job is preventing you from getting pregnant. You're aware there are fertility treatments available, aren't you? Some individuals even take leave from work to pursue them, she insisted. With all due respect, if stress is the issue here, I assure you it's not stemming from my job, but from you, I retorted. What did you say? You come here daily and criticize me relentlessly. That is a major source of stress for me, I continued. Oh, you've got quite a mouth on you, don't you? It must be the job that's affecting you negatively. I think I need to intervene and make you quit, she declared. What are you talking about? What right do you have to force me to leave my job? Oh, just watch. You'll see what happens when you anger me, she threatened and stormed out. At first, I thought she was just making empty threats, but she proved me wrong. One day, my boss summoned me. Natalie, is it true that you're planning to resign? He asked, perplexed. What? No, I never said that, I replied, bewildered. Your mother-in-law came to speak with me. She claimed that you were under immense stress from work and wished to quit, he explained. Yet, she's suggesting that you're unable to quit because you're struggling internally. No, that's completely untrue. I genuinely enjoy my work, and quitting is the last thing on my mind, I clarified. Is that so? Remember, if ever you find yourself in a tight spot, my door is always open for a talk, my boss reassured me. I appreciate your concern, but I assure you, I'm perfectly fine, I replied, though my patience was wearing thin. After leaving work, I headed straight home, only to find my mother-in-law there waiting for me, a smug smile on her face. What's happening here, Mom? I asked. Oh, did your boss pull you aside for a chat? Have you finally understood the consequences of crossing me? She gloated. Yes, I've come to understand that you are an incredibly ill-tempered and malicious woman, I retorted. How dare you speak to your mother-in-law in such a manner? You truly are clueless. I won't let this slide. Divorce my son immediately and get out, she demanded. All right, I'll get a divorce. I agreed, my mind made up. I headed to the city hall to initiate the divorce proceedings. Afterwards, I called my husband, asking him to meet me at a cafe to discuss a serious matter. Around an hour later, my husband arrived at the cafe, anxious after rushing from work. I laid everything out for him, even playing back recordings of my mother-in-law's cruel remarks that I had secretly captured. Upon hearing the audio, my husband believed me instantly. Is this for real? Mom, he was in disbelief. Without wasting any time, we headed to the city hall and filed for divorce. Right after, we made our way to my in-laws. What's happening between you and Natalie? My husband demanded as we entered. Let us inside, he insisted, and we made our way to the living room. What's going on, Henry? My mother-in-law asked, trying to feign innocence. There's something you need to know. We've just filed for divorce, my husband revealed. What? Shocked, my father-in-law turned to look at my husband. However, my mother-in-law merely looked at me, her grin never fading. What on earth is going on? I can't wrap my head around the fact that you two just got a divorce. George, my husband's father, exclaimed in disbelief. George, let's take a moment to breathe and stay calm. There might be underlying issues between the two of them that we are not aware of. Henry and Natalie are adults. We should respect their decision. My mother-in-law chimed in, attempting to maintain a composed demeanor. However, her facade crumbled as my husband began to speak. Yes, we did file for divorce, but we immediately got remarried. I've decided to take Natalie's last name, Smith, Henry stated firmly. What? What on earth are you talking about? Confusion and panic laced her voice. I think you know exactly why we're doing this. You've been tormenting Natalie since the day we got married, Henry accused. What? Do you have any proof of that? She demanded, her voice shaky. Actually, we do, I replied, pulling out my dictaphone. You recorded our conversations? Her face fell as she realized the gravity of the situation. All of a sudden you seem quite flustered, Mother, Henry noted, his voice laced with disappointment. He took the dictaphone from me and played the recordings for everyone in the room. George's face turned a deep shade of red as he listened, his anger apparent. What the hell is this? How could you treat her like that? He berated her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, she stammered, her composure completely broken. But we can't continue like this. I don't want to carry your last name any longer, Mother. Dad, I'm sorry it had to come to this, Henry said, addressing his father with an apologetic gaze. Well, what other choice did you have? I'd do the same if I were in your shoes, George responded, his tone heavy with disappointment. I can't have you in my life anymore, Mother. I'm cutting ties with you, Henry declared resolutely. No, please, don't cut me out of your life, Henry, she pleaded, her voice desperate. Please, I'm begging for your forgiveness, she pleaded desperately. I'm sorry, but I cannot find it in me to forgive someone who has hurt someone I deeply care about. Let's go, Natalie, Henry said firmly, extending his hand towards me. All right, I agreed, placing my hand in his as we made our exit from the in-laws' residence. On a side note, the reason we were able to get remarried instantly after filing for divorce is because we had previously been married. Typically, it would take around 6 months before one could remarry someone else. However, in our case, we were told that immediate remarriage was permissible since it was to the same person. Following these events, we relocated, settling down in an apartment situated conveniently close to our workplace. My mother-in-law was strictly forbidden from seeing her son again. My father-in-law had explicitly stated that should she ever attempt to approach us again, he would not hesitate to divorce her on the spot. Given that my mother-in-law has been a stay-at-home mom for the entirety of her life, she had no choice but to adhere to my father-in-law's conditions. She couldn't afford to divorce him and live on her own. It's exactly what she deserved. A year later, free from the toxic stress that was my mother-in-law, I found out that I was pregnant. It dawned on me that perhaps she was the very reason why I couldn't conceive before. Once our baby arrived, we made the decision to only maintain contact with my father-in-law, deliberately excluding my mother-in-law from our lives. My father-in-law seemed utterly content as he cradled his grandchild in his arms, blissfully unaware of his wife's previous actions. Henry and I made a pact to stand by each other and to cherish every moment, watching our child grow and flourish in a loving environment.